So are we about to see a large shift of people moving over from English Pokemon product to Japanese? I keep seeing this topic discussed in live streams, YouTube, Reddit, and Twitter. So I thought I'd give my opinion on it all real quick. So let's get into it. Is Japanese Pokemon about to make a huge comeback? So let's start from the beginning is what most people would say, but I just want to get to the point. So instead, let's just do a quick recap as to why people are beginning to feel that way right now. A quick point of reference that people commonly use is the year of 2021, where we had a lot of situations similar to what's going on right now. English product is hard to find, scalpers, very common, bots buying things out, but there were some key differences, primarily the pandemic, and then we also had things like stimulus check. So things like this made it so it was easier for people to buy more Pokemon product back in the days. Does anybody remember what they spent their stimulus check on? So moving on, you've probably heard that story before and why people are talking about Japanese Pokemon making a return now in 2024. And unless you're hunting for very specific product, you're probably very familiar with the fact that right now, Surging Sparks is very expensive, and any other set that you can think of in the current rotation is getting a little bit more expensive. All of them are rising up in value, with the exception of maybe Paradox Rift and Scarlet and Violet base set. Everything else is moving up. And with time, those will too. So right now, for people in the community, either they pay up, they leave the hobby, for now at least, or they can try and go back to older sets, maybe vintage, but that doesn't always have the same type of love and passion. And don't get me wrong, I know there's alternatives, you can always just buy singles, but for some people, that's removing the thrill of opening a booster pack and seeing what you get inside, even if you miss most of the time like I do. Now, I understand that there are people that still try and make money off the singles market. That makes sense. There's always ways to make money off this. But when it comes to singles, unless you're investing into them long term, you're grading them, or you're just predicting on trying to make a quick flip, which is more like gambling in a sense, I don't always recommend it. And I'm not saying that I'm a pro at that, I'm just saying that's normally what I hear. So if everybody now is having second thoughts about the English product, then what's the next best choice? Japanese product. It just makes sense. But something that's happened since 2021 is now we have more options coming to us outside of Japanese. Korean is more common now, and then you also have the new Chinese sets, and some of which even have some exclusive cards to them. I remember not too long ago, there's this very unique Chinese Pikachu's card that has a very limited print run and skyrocketing right now. So I wouldn't be surprised if maybe some people are jumping ship over there instead. And the best part about it is that there's a lot of people now that vend this stuff or that sell this stuff that are coming off more trusted, so you don't feel this need to have to go find a Korean supplier or a Chinese supplier, when instead you have people like Crystal Collects, keep in mind that's with a K not a C, who can resell you this product, and a lot of people feel comfortable with her. So does that mean Japanese product is still the way to go though, now that you have so many options? Well, in my opinion, really, it's just preference at this point. It's no secret that Japanese Pokemon product has really great quality. Oftentimes people say that just pulling it out of the booster pack in itself is Gen Mint 10, and that's been the norm. I know that there's been some kind of hesitation on keeping that statement right now, but for the norm, that was usually very common. And the only reason, if I'm correct, Korean had such a big popularity boom was because Japanese and English were getting expensive, so people fell back on Korean instead. And I can't really tell you too much on the Chinese side of the card game because I don't really know too much about that product. But let's talk about the word that people love to hear. Money. Can you make money moves? Can you have a large stonks binder of these cards? Can you even make money off Japanese cards? Well, of course, sure, they tend to follow behind the English market all the time. It's very normal. The only time they tend to catch up, for example, is a situation that's happening right now. Moonbryon from the English set is popping off. But if you check out TCG Player, the Japanese one is worth more. Why is that? Well, just because there's less listings. It doesn't mean it's worth more. If you go through other sites like eBay or whatever other site people might choose to buy Japanese singles from, it's still relatively cheaper than the English one. Not that much more, but it is cheaper. And that seems to be the norm all the time. English will always be more expensive, and then Japanese tends to kind of tread behind that. How much they differ usually varies depending on the card, but it usually is the case. They do differ. And usually that's also the case with boxes too. So if you're trying to get certain cases of boxes, they're usually relatively cheaper, with the exception being 151 because that's when they introduced the Master Balls. And so of course, you know, people went crazy for that, plus it was 151. So it was very nostalgic and also introduced a lot of people into just Japanese Pokemon cards to begin with. And I'm sure there's other niche scenarios out there that exist, but I don't really know too many of them that I could think of, and I don't think we need to dive too deep into it to get the point across. And as a reminder, guys, I do sell Japanese product and some English product as well, so you guys can always come check us out at Lucky Bunny TCG. Otherwise, like, subscribe, let me know what you think about this topic. I always love hearing people's thoughts, and I'm pretty good at responding to most people's comments, unless it's a couple of days out and I've posted something new, but for the most part, I try to respond to everybody. So now that we've addressed some things in the current state of the market right now, is now the second coming of the Messiah of Japanese product?
Nope.
Nah, I wouldn't say so. I'm sure there's plenty of stores that are seeing an increase in sales, and certain sets are getting closer to the end of their print run, like Shiny Treasures EX, which I imagine will eventually stop being printed and have a similar effect like an older set just like it. For those of you that are curious, I'm talking about V-Star Universe. But maybe once all the other English sets begin to spike as we see more and more product getting out there, more people doing rip and ships, more people fighting for this stuff, more people investing and collecting this stuff, there will be less English product. And with that, it's always a variable. And that's why I do think that people are shifting over, but I don't think that there's this large migration happening right now that you need to feel inclined and buy into the FOMO of is now the time to jump in and go heavy in Japanese Pokemon cards. But depending on how hard Prismatic Evolution might be and how quickly people get priced out, there is always a world where people do consider it. But I can't tell you the future. I don't have a Magic 8 Ball like Alex does. So until then, I can't really tell you what to do. And I'm not really going to tell you what to do. This is just thoughts of potentially what could happen in the future. And something to note as to why people are shifting over to buying some Japanese product as well is because people are hunting for the chase cards that currently exist right now, such as Greninja EX, Pikachu EX. It's just easier to get your hands on that product in the Japanese variation, so it makes sense. So sets like Crimson Haze or Super Electric Breakers, Supercharged Breaker, whatever, everybody seems to list that under so many different names. It's really annoying. Even my supplier has it under a different name. Small tangent, but not the point. People are trying to get their chase cards, and they will try and do it in that fashion. Plus, some people are thinking more so long term, so it makes sense. Let me try and get the Greninja now. If it blows up like Moonbreon does in the future, then it'll follow the same trend, money in the future, right? So there could be variable reasons as to why people are buying into those sets right now. And lastly, outside of just the quality of Japanese Pokemon cards, oftentimes you do feel a little bit more rewarded when you open up a box of Japanese product. I've done a couple box openings, so you can just check out my channel. I think there's 2, if not 3. And once a new set comes out, I try and do another one. Sometimes I don't put them up because I'm not really good at doing the box opening aspect of things, but it does feel rewarding, and I end up putting most of those cards back into my binder, if not offering them to my oldest son. And I say that just to point out how easy it is to sometimes hit something in those boxes. I'm not saying you're gonna make big money out of those, but you do at least feel a sense of redemption or getting your money's worth when you go through the cards and you see how beautiful they are. And I know I mentioned Prismatic Evolution, but I want to talk about Terastel Festival, which, you know, is the Japanese counterpart to it, because I imagine it will do well over here. I don't think it's going to be anything crazy that's going to blow up, but unlike Prismatic Evolution, the set is print to demand over there in Japan, so I wouldn't be surprised if people do get exhausted of not being able to get their hands on those cards. And as we've seen, a lot of people are really just liking the new evolutions and how good they look. And that might be enough for people to consider shifting over, but I wouldn't know. On Terastel Festival, by the way, I'm taking pre-orders for that one. As always, guys, buy responsible, do your research before you get into anything. I'm just a dude on the internet, and like many others here, I could be wrong. I have an opinion, and that's all I'm saying. Hopefully you enjoy your holiday weekend depending on when you watch this. Until the next one, I love you, bye! Bye, love you, bye.